Hey guys, so this week we talked about chapter 4 and chapter 17, and the one that had the greatest impact on me was also chapter 4, referring to the juvenile justice system. And the reason I decided to choose this is because I want to work with juveniles in the future. That's my specialty that I want to go into. And then with the fact that I'm already working with them now with the sheriff's office, really kind of impacted reading about this because it made me realize how true the information that Jordan gave us was. One of the discussion questions he asked us was, how does racial discrimination in the juvenile system affect the processed individuals as they grow up? And I don't need the statistics to see that because I see it every single day just working there. These kids are influenced by the time that they are born by everything around them, and then they're put into a system where they're still influenced negatively. When the system is supposed to be created for rehabilitation, and it's not. So I felt like it had the greatest impact on me getting to read about that. And in the book, I highlighted, it says that the focal concerns perspective argues that judges' sentencing decisions are affected by three major focal concerns: a desire to protect the community from dangerous offenders, which is true; a desire to impose a sentence that can be regarded as just in light of the blameworthiness of the offender, again true; and as a desire to avoid negative social consequences. And because of that, it causes minorities to receive more severe sentences. The book also talked about how it's kind of like a stereotype that, African Americans or other minorities are going to be able to deal with being incarcerated more than whites are due to the past stereotypes and incarceration rates of African Americans, which right there shows that this is something that, is kind of being looked at regardless. It causes the judges in the perception that they are being tough on crime. It makes them think that they are because it's where the greatest amount of statistics are coming from, even though that's not the case. Ethics to me is related in this entire situation because, again, the purpose of our juvenile system, and it doesn't really talk about it a lot in this book, but everything else I've ever researched is rehabilitation. The point is, because these are young offenders, is to get them in the system, teach them, what they did was incorrectly, punish them as amount is needed, and then have them rehabilitated so they can be put back in the system. That's why they go through, a different court level. They don't go through adult court unless they're being tried as an adult for their crime specifically, because they don't want them to be in the system any longer. But because, our system is a money-making machine, rehabilitation rates is not really, they're not shown at all, because of how we treat the juveniles and the other adult offenders and just how the entire system is itself. So are things getting better? No, they're not. I don't think so. Just with the juveniles that I've seen come in and out of the system, one in particular has came back into our facility over 4 different times for minor offenses, because he's not understanding and not having any type of support or help that he could possibly need to stop the recidivism rate there. So I don't think it's getting better, and I don't think the criminal justice system is doing much to prevent it either, because we are kind of focusing on other areas rather than focus specifically on juveniles or even corrections in particular, in my opinion. And then what can be done differently? I think there's a lot of things that we can do differently right now, specifically when you're talking about, an overrepresentation of minorities within the system. Statistics show that African Americans and minorities in general are being overrepresented. They are, and then we're kind of fighting that war right now with the Black Lives Matter, the movement, and then, with local law enforcement and that type of thing, because we're not doing anything above local law enforcement for it. So if we're not doing anything when it comes to the street levels of these type of crimes, what in the world is going to make us think that anything is going to change when it comes to corrections and incarceration and anything like that? I think it's going to be a long process, and I think, we kind of talked about it. Jordan made a really good point about how bringing awareness is kind of the only thing that we can do right now, and just kind of, highlight the problems and highlight these type of situations. So